when the screen suddenly went black, then came back on with a new unruly presence, a man wearing a Max Headroom mask.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the strangest and most unsettling mysteries throughout history. Whether it's an unsolved murder, disappearance, cryptic text, or something even more chilling, all of these remain unsolved today.
At a loss, doctors dub the mysterious illness Havana Syndrome.
Number 30. The Faces of Bélmez. It all began in 1971, when a woman claimed that a person's face appeared on her floor. Her family destroyed the image, thinking it would help.
So her husband then tears up the floor and re-cements it. But a week later, the face reappears in the floor, followed by several more.
It returned shortly after, earning the attention of the authorities. Since then, the owners have claimed that more faces continue to pop up, and their home in Bélmez has become a tourist site. Those who visit are treated to a plethora of disfigured faces, subjecting them to the uncanny valley. Is this the work of ghosts or merely a mass case of pareidolia? Several investigations have taken place, attempting to prove that they were created by hand.
These strange faces remain an unexplained phenomenon until we get more concrete proof.
Others are convinced that they're proof of a decades-long paranormal event. You can travel there and see for yourself, if you dare. Number 29. The Disappearance of Frederick Voynich. What started as routine training ended in pure horror. Frederick Voynich was both an aspiring pilot and a believer in life beyond the stars.
When 20-year-old pilot Frederick Voynich flies the Strait in a Cessna 182L and encounters something in the sky.
During a late flight to King Island in 1978, he alerted air control that there was another craft flying above him. He described it as large with several bright lights on it, and that it was following him. The last thing he said before contact was lost was that it wasn't a regular plane. A search was conducted afterward, but he was never found.
Frederick Voynich has been missing now for 46 years, and yet we are still talking about him.
There are plenty of believers who are adamant that Voynich was abducted that night, while those who work in the field assert that he simply became confused or staged the scene himself. Number 28. The lead masks case. There are some deaths that, while seemingly far-fetched, are still explainable. This was definitely not one of those cases. In 1966, the corpses of two men were found side by side. Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana matched in every aspect, from their fancy outfits and lead eye masks to the lack of any physical trauma. Near them was a set of cryptic instructions, but even that didn't help shed light on their predicament. To make things more confusing, an autopsy wasn't held for weeks, making it impossible to tell how they had passed. This has resulted in a series of unprovable assertions, ranging from foul play to an accidental overdose while searching for non-human life. Number 27. The Disappearance of the Sodder Children. When a fire broke out on Christmas Eve, the victims had no idea just how much their lives would change. George and Jenny Sodder were able to escape with 4 of their 9 children living with them, but the other 5 vanished. The parents asserted that foul play was at hand. They spent years searching, putting up billboards and offering thousands of dollars for information. In 1967, an apparent photo of their son Louis was sent to them, but even that led to dead ends. George and Jenny passed decades ago, but their remaining relatives continue to look. Those most invested believe they were taken by the Sicilian mob, while others believe they sadly passed that fateful night in 1945. Number 26. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse. When a ship sailed past the Flannan Isles in 1900 without a single light despite the poor weather, they knew something was wrong. A rescue team reached the island days later, shocked by their discovery.
When he opened the door, Moore realized at once that something was terribly wrong.
There was no sign of the 3 men manning the lighthouse, James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, but there was evidence indicating they had been there, most notably their unmade beds. None of the 3 men was able to be found. While many believed they had accidentally tumbled over the side of the cliff, others had alternate ideas. Everything from a sea monster to a band of vengeful ghosts was suggested. With no sign of them dead or alive since that fateful night, it may be a mystery that's never fully solved. Number 25. The Fate of Jimmy Hoffa. As the leader of the Teamsters labor union, he made powerful friends and even more powerful enemies.
Jimmy Hoffa was kind of a force of nature.
It's something that really kind of caught all of our imagination.
He was such a large figure. Everybody knew about Jimmy Hoffa.
After a brief stint in prison that led to Jimmy Hoffa losing his role, he attempted to regain it. On July 30th, 1975, he left for a meeting and never returned. A missing person report was filed and a 6-figure reward was offered, but no one came forward. In 2004, it was alleged that Hoffa's former friend Frank Sheeran was behind it. Those claims, along with those stating his remains were buried beneath Giant Stadium, have been widely deemed false. We may never know the truth behind Hoffa's fate, but to this day, it remains one of the most unsettling mysteries in American history.
I wish somehow we could find out what happened to Jimmy Hoffa.
Number 24, Tamam Shud. In 1948, reports of a strange man washed up near Somerton, South Australia spread like wildfire. Since then, he has remained at the center of an ongoing mystery.
And this is where he met his end.
Right here. And to take your secrets with you.
An autopsy was held, and while there was some damage done to the internal organs, there was no unnatural substance found inside him. His bag was later discovered, but the contents did not help identify him. Among the findings they'd come across, the most unsettling was an undecipherable code and a small sheet of paper, simply reading Tamam Shud, or ended in Persian. In 2022, his identity was tentatively confirmed as Carl Webb.
We managed to extract enough DNA from one of the Somerton man's hairs, and from that DNA we were able to then find a distant cousin that is still alive. That cousin turned out to be on the paternal side of Charles Webb.
Though we may know who he is, it's still unknown how he came to pass and whether it was by his own hand or someone else's. Number 23, the Beast of Gévaudan. What would you do if you were suddenly faced with a monster you'd never seen before? The citizens of Gévaudan learned firsthand when they became victims of animals they'd never seen before.
Le Bête du Gévaudan, also known as the Beast of Gévaudan, was a mysterious wolf-like creature which mounted a murderous rampage over a 3-year span within the 18th century.
Described as being dark brown and striped with long tails, they were unlike anything observed there before. Though sources vary, it's believed that dozens of people met their grisly ends from 1764 to 1767. What species terrorized them is still debated. Though a wolf seems to be the most logical answer, its description causes that theory to fall flat. This has led others to speculate it was a hyena or even a lion.
Among the many hypotheses that emerged was that the beast might be an African hyena. The hyena was this very mysterious creature that lots of naturalists and others wrote about in the 1750s and 60s.
Its reported lack of fear around most humans, aggressive daytime attack, and sheer agility have also added to the debate. Number 22, the disappearance of Flight 19. In 1945, a crew of 5 American planes left Fort Lauderdale for training and were never seen again.
27 U.S. Navy sailors lost their lives. They disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle, and there has still never been an adequate explanation for what happened to them.
The night they disappeared, their planes were fueled and their lead pilot was in contact with air traffic control. He grew more confused the longer they remained airborne, before ceasing communication with one last message about how they would go down together. They eventually did, but neither the crafts nor the men inside were found. Many believe the pilot was merely confused after his compass stopped working.
Taylor, who was the flight lead, was talking about the compass didn't look right. He started to get confused.
Don't they know they have to get back?
Taylor thought that they needed to fly to the northeast because he thought they were over the Florida Keys.
Others are convinced that he and his crew fell victim to the Bermuda Triangle and that it had a hand in their eventual demise. The truth may be somewhere in the middle, but we may never know for sure. Number 21, the Dyatlov Pass tragedy. In January of 1959, a group of 9 hikers left and never came back. It wasn't until February that they were found and the horror truly began.
When rescuers arrive on scene at the Dyatlov Pass weeks after the incident, the first thing they discover is the group's empty tent and cold weather gear.
Their tent was cut from the inside, and their winter clothes were left behind in a hurry. At first, it was believed they had passed from hypothermia. It wasn't until a further investigation was conducted and 3 of them were found with skull or chest damage that the narrative began to shift. Things went from bad to worse when others were found without their tongue or eyes. The theories range from sudden natural events to stumbling into a military testing area. It remains one of the largest global mysteries of all time, with the answer remaining out of reach.
Do you think that this case can ever truly be solved?
I think if we can get real cooperation from the authorities, we may finally get answers.
Number 20, Bimini Road. Just off the coast of North Bimini Island in the Bahamas lies a half-a-mile underwater path made up of large rectangular limestone blocks.
The Bimini Road has inspired fascination since the 1960s.
Due to the unusual precision and regularity of the blocks, many have questioned its natural formation. One popular theory suggests that it could be a long-lost road to Atlantis.
Conditions are near perfect. The team are able to examine what actually lies beneath this fascinating structure. It seems like there are 2 layers to some of the road.
Further lending credence to this theory is the fact that about 30 years before it was discovered, American clairvoyant Edgar Cayce talked about a road to Atlantis being discovered near Bimini. Geologists argue that it is a naturally occurring formation, but there are still some in the scientific community who dispute that. As such, the true origin of the Bimini Road remains a captivating enigma.
I don't think anybody can dive in Bimini and not believe that these are man-made artifacts.
Number 19. The Jameson family deaths. In October 2009, Bobby Jameson, his wife Cheryl Lynn, and their daughter Madison disappeared from their hometown of Eufaula, Oklahoma under mysterious circumstances.
But when relatives discovered they hadn't returned after 4 days, they started to panic.
A few days later, authorities found their abandoned truck in a remote location, but no signs of the family. Discovered in the truck were the Jamesons' malnourished dog, their phones and IDs, and a large amount of cash. Police also retrieved security footage from their home, showing the couple loading up their truck in an eerily silent and strange manner.
It took them an extremely long time to load the truck. They made 30, 40 trips, it seemed like.
Multiple theories have been put forward, including a faked death situation and a drug deal gone awry, but none has been substantiated. The family's remains were discovered 4 years later, but the true circumstances around their disappearance and death remain a mystery.
I do think that they must have seen something they shouldn't have seen, because nothing else makes sense.
Number 18. The strange disappearance of Paula Jean Weldon. Paula Jean Weldon, a sophomore at Bennington College in Vermont, disappeared on December 1, 1946 while hiking on Vermont's Long Trail. She was reported missing by her roommate after failing to return to her room. Multiple people spotted her along the trail, including other hikers. Yet she seemingly vanished without a trace. An extensive search was launched afterwards, with her school even shutting down for days to allow staff and students to participate. The investigation into Weldon's disappearance was, however, hampered by the fact that there was no statewide police in Vermont at the time. Till today, no one knows what happened to Weldon, but the case led to the creation of the Vermont State Police the following year. Number 17. The curious case of Mary Reeser. Throughout history, there have been multiple reported cases of spontaneous human combustion, but perhaps none has gained more attention than that of Mary Reeser. On July 2, 1951, Reeser was discovered almost completely incinerated in her St. Petersburg, Florida apartment. All that was left of her were a couple of bone fragments and her left foot. Mysteriously, the rest of her apartment was largely undisturbed, with only a few nearby items affected by the heat. This inexplicable level of destruction puzzled investigators, leading to the rise of the theory of spontaneous human combustion. However, the FBI argued that the fire was ignited by a cigarette Reeser was smoking, with her body fat and nightgown acting as fuel for the fire. Number 16. The mysterious fate of the USS Cyclops. It's quite a strange occurrence for the largest ship in the US Navy to just disappear without a trace. But that was indeed what happened during World War I when the USS Cyclops departed Brazil for Baltimore.
One day out of port, she enters some of the deepest waters in the Bermuda Triangle area and simply disappears.
The 542-foot-long collier, which was transporting tons of manganese ore, vanished alongside the 306 persons on board. It was initially believed that the vessel was sunk in an attack by the Germans, but they have maintained no knowledge or involvement in its fate.
There was a Washington, D.C. newspaper that claimed that she had been taken over and had been turned into a pirate ship.
Since then, one lingering theory is that the USS Cyclops must have fallen prey to the infamous Bermuda Triangle. More than a century later, the disappearance remains unsolved, eluding the mind of anyone who contemplates the fate of the USS Cyclops.
So did the Triangle's turbulent seas produce a freak wave large enough to sink the Cyclops?
Number 15. The Oakville Blobs. In the summer of 1994, residents of the small town of Oakville, Washington woke up to find tiny blobs that seemed to have rained down from the sky.
No one was really concerned until they realized that it wasn't raining rain. It was raining tiny blobs of gelatinous goo.
These translucent gelatinous substances were described as being half the size of a grain of rice. As strange as they were, what made them particularly creepy were the bizarre effects they seemed to have on the town. Residents experienced flu-like symptoms and respiratory infections, and some animals were said to have died.
I got sick, my wife got sick, my daughter, everybody that lived here got sick.
Upon testing, the blobs were found to contain 2 species of bacteria, although both are usually known to be harmless. Multiple theories have since been suggested, but no definitive conclusion has been reached as to the origins of the Oakville blobs.
Maybe we were a biological experiment of some kind, a small one, maybe just get people a little bit sick.
Number 14, the Pollock sisters. The idea of reincarnation has long been heavily debated, and some proponents tout this case as evidence for it. In May 1957, 2 sisters, Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock, lost their lives in a car accident. The following year, the parents welcomed twin girls, Jillian and Jennifer, despite only 1 heartbeat being detected during the pregnancy. These twins shared many similarities with their deceased sisters, including birthmarks, preferences, and behaviors. They also seemed to recollect memories only their sisters knew, and developed a strange fear of cats. The girls were profiled by a professor of psychiatry as an example of reincarnation, but many have dismissed the case as a hoax, arguing that the family simply fed the past memories to the twins. Number 13, the Overton Bridge. Located near Dumbarton in Scotland, the Overton Bridge was constructed in 1895. What makes this seemingly ordinary bridge so creepy is the inexplicable phenomenon of dogs leaping to their deaths from it.
And it just leapt right over the bridge.
It's been reported that since the 1950s, about 600 dogs have jumped off this bridge, seemingly for no reason, with some of them suffering fatal injuries. Some local residents believe that the structure and the Overton house that it leads to are haunted by spirits who call out to the dogs.
They're being, in a sense, lured to the edge of the bridge walls by this figure.
Another possible explanation suggests that the canines are attracted to the smell of certain animals underneath the bridge. With no definitive cause found yet, we'll advise just keeping your dogs off this bridge.
Could some overpowering smell at the bottom of the bridge be driving dogs to jump?
Number 12. The Toynbee Tiles. Located in several cities across North and South America, the Toynbee Tiles are a series of linoleum blocks embedded in the asphalt of seemingly random streets.
It was this tile, like a floor tile or whatever, embedded in the asphalt in the crosswalk that bears this message on it.
These enigmatic tiles contain cryptic messages that often refer to death, and have confounded people since they began popping up in the 1980s. They take their name from their usual inscription found on them, which is believed to be a reference to the British historian Arnold J. Toynbee.
The Toynbee referenced is almost definitely the historian Arnold Toynbee.
Who installed these tiles, how they were able to achieve that without detection, and what they actually mean still remain a mystery to this day. The peculiar nature of the tiles and their random placements have sparked numerous theories, some of which were addressed in a 2011 documentary film.
I would walk over the tiles over and over and over and over again, so I'd think about them every single day. And, I would just constantly think, I wonder how long they've been there, I wonder what they mean.
Number 11, the Circleville Letters. Beginning in the late 1970s, an unknown individual rained terror on the residents of Circleville, Ohio. This still unidentified figure began sending out threatening letters that exposed alleged secrets of the town's residents. The first target of the letters was the bus driver, a woman named Mary Gillespie, who was alleged to have had an affair with the local school superintendent.
In addition to allegations of an affair, the letter carried an ominous threat.
Gillespie's husband Ron was also targeted, and the following year he died in a mysterious accident after receiving a call from someone believed to be the letter writer.
Somewhere in between leaving the house and hitting that tree, his gun had fired 1 shot.
Ron's brother-in-law was eventually named as the writer and sent to prison for attempting to murder Gillespie, but the letters continued. To date, no one knows for sure who was behind the Circleville letters.
Paul Freshour was finally granted parole after serving 10 years. To this day, He maintains his innocence, and he's sure that the real criminal is still at large.
Number 10, the severed feet mystery. It'll probably not make headlines if one human foot washes up ashore. But when 21 feet, usually still wearing sneakers, are found on the shores of the same sea, it is sure to raise a few eyebrows. The first discovery was made in August 2007 in British Columbia, Canada, with some others found in multiple towns in the U.S. state of Washington.
It's the 13th foot found in British Columbia since 2007.
Some of the feet have since been linked to people who were either declared missing or had mental health issues. It's been posited that the occurrence of the severed limbs is due to a combination of body decomposition and the buoyancy of New Age sneakers. Regardless, questions still linger about why this seems to only occur in this particular sea.
Without much to work with, DNA and the brand and manufacturing date of the shoes are the best clues investigators have in what is a growing mystery.
Number 9, the unexplained Phoenix Lights. On March 13, 1997, thousands of people in Arizona and Nevada reported seeing a series of lights appear in the sky.
They were white like stars when they were coming towards us.
These lights were arranged in a V formation and spanned a vast area, silently moving across the cities. The phenomenon was observed for about 3 hours that night, with some people taking pictures and videos. The official explanation given by the authorities was that the lights belonged to military aircraft that were engaged in training exercises. But this was met with a lot of skepticism.
I've seen them from the ground, I've seen them from the air, and these weren't flares.
Even the then governor of Arizona, Fife Symington, who was a pilot himself, described the event as, quote, otherworldly. It remains one of the most notable and perplexing UFO events in modern history.
Did the Phoenix Lights come from somewhere beyond the stars?
Number 8, the mysterious sleeping sickness. Throughout history, there have been multiple pandemics that have brought the entire world to a standstill. One of the least known ones is the sleeping sickness pandemic of the early 20th century. Between 1915 and 1926, around the same time the influenza pandemic ravaged the world, a sleeping disease claimed the lives of more than 500,000 people. Known scientifically as encephalitis lethargica, this disease left sufferers in a statue-like condition, unable to speak or move their bodies. In fact, some patients who survived the pandemic reportedly never regained full control of their motor functions. Although the disease mysteriously disappeared in 1927, scientists remain puzzled over its origin and cause, as well as how it can be transmitted. Number 7, the Havana Syndrome. Starting sometime in 2016, diplomatic personnel in Cuba began to experience a weird range of health problems such as memory loss, hearing loss, and nausea.
Doctors said that diplomats' brain matter had actually changed. What started out as a mysterious nuisance became a suspected instrument of attack.
Follow-up studies found that there was evidence of brain injuries. However, when questioned, the victims said that they'd heard a strange noise like a grating sound or marbles rolling on the floor, although others nearby did not hear this.
A source says starting last December, the U.S. officials were exposed to a sonic device, which experts suggest could produce sound waves below and above human hearing, which could cause these symptoms.
Quasi-unusual, but when recordings of the sound were captured, the closest thing researchers could find were Jamaican field crickets, which are harmless.
The recording is just one of the many sounds taken in Cuba that led investigators to initially believe it was a sonic weapon.
No cause has been found, and theories range from microwave weapons to pesticides.
Who or what caused it? A mystery.
The United States government is still not sure who or what is responsible for those health attacks.
Number 6, the ghost blimp. Picture it, 1942 off the coast of California. 2 U.S. Navy pilots command the Navy's L-8 blimp in search of Japanese submarines in waters not so far from San Francisco.
There were known to be Japanese submarines operating off the coast. There had been an attack on an oil refinery down near Santa Monica, Los Angeles. There was a great fear that there would be more attacks.
They radio flight control about an oil slick on the water and are never heard from again. A few hours later, that very same L-8 blimp crashes into a cliff, with no one on board. Everything in or about the craft was working normally, the throttles were idle, and more eerily, the parachutes and lifeboat were still on board. To this day, no one knows what happened, and the personnel involved were never found. Number 5. The Orang Medan. In 1947, American vessels picked up an SOS call from a Dutch vessel, the SS Orang Medan. The message was a chilling one. SOS from Orang Medan. We float, probably whole of crew dead. I die. Finding the ship also meant finding corpses with gaping eyes and mouths. Soon after, while under tow, the ship caught fire and exploded. Stranger still, there are apparently no registration records for the ship, while the Coast Guard didn't report the story until the mid-50s. Theories tend to focus on government cover-ups due to possible chemical weapons on board. This story even served as the basis for the 2019 video game The Dark Pictures Anthology, The Man of Medan. Number 4. The Tunguska Event. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, a large explosion blasted the area near the Tunguska River in Russia, flattening some 80 million trees over some 800 square miles of forest.
Millions of pine trees, larches and birches are destroyed by the pressure wave and the fires. A shockwave circles the world, leaving its mark on seismographs everywhere. But no one can understand where it has come from.
For years, scientists debated what could have caused such an explosion.
Shockwaves rippled across Europe. The night sky was illuminated for weeks after, and people were able to read their newspapers in the middle of the night from London to Asia.
It's classified as the largest impact event ever recorded, but no impact crater was ever found. Instead, researchers found 5 miles of scorched trees directly in the center that were somehow still standing. In 2013, however, a team from the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine analyzed rock samples from the site and concluded it was likely a meteor exploding in midair.
Researchers studied microscopic fragments of decayed vegetation dating back to the time of the event and discovered mineral combinations perfectly consistent with other meteorite impact sites, like the 50,000-year-old meteor crater in Arizona.
Number 3. The Bay of Jars. Brazil's Guanabara Bay contains a lot of trash. But the trash that people cannot explain is the 200 or so Roman ceramic jars found submerged in an underwater field the size of 3 tennis courts. According to experts, these jars trace back to the 3rd century. However, European explorers didn't even reach Brazil until 1500, and the Romans themselves had little to no incentive to travel that far out. Thus, it's a complete mystery why their artifacts would be found there. Meanwhile, Brazil closed off the area in 1983, so it's unlikely an answer will ever be found. Number 2. The Voynich Manuscript. If you haven't heard of this one, strap in. The Voynich Manuscript is a mysterious 250-page book written in a completely unknown language and containing odd, otherworldly sketches.
There are theories that the book might have been written in a kind of encoded Latin, or that an alien wrote it while being held captive in a monastery, or that Leonardo da Vinci wrote it as a child.
Its origin is unable to be fully traced, so no one knows who created it, let alone why, but carbon dating puts it in the early 15th century.
Cryptologists say the writing has all the characteristics of a real language, just one that no one's ever seen before. What makes it seem real is that in actual languages, letters and groups of letters appear with consistent frequencies, and the language in the Voynich manuscript has patterns you wouldn't find from a random letter generator.
So far, no one has been able to decode the script it's written in, despite being worked on by professional code breakers from both World War I and World War II. What strange message lies inside this uncrackable book?
The truth is, after decades of dedicated study to try and solve the mystery, this strange book seems likely to remain one of our most enduring historical codes to crack.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Max Headroom Hijack. In 1987, 2 television stations in Chicago were hijacked in perhaps the most surreal act of video piracy ever recorded.
It takes some pretty significant equipment, technical equipment, and some knowledge of broadcast frequencies, microwave frequencies, and a lot of power.
Both instances featured an unidentified man dressed as obscure TV personality Max Headroom dancing to distorted audio. The second video, significantly longer, saw the man rambling incoherently in a distorted voice and being swatted on the behind by an off-screen accomplice.
Some dry clothes. Because he's a freaking nerd. I think I'm better than Chuck Swirsky. Freaking nerd. Oh, Jesus.
The segments lasted no more than a couple of minutes, but have gone down as among the most notorious incidents in television history. No one has ever identified who pulled it off or even why. We can only hope someone comes forward after all this time to put an end to this mystery.
My brother is wearing the other one, but it's dirty. It's got blood marks on it.
Do you know of any little-known creepy mysteries? Share them in the comments.
The story is, it's sad, it's tragic, it's macabre, but there's something really mysterious about it.
And the more you read, the weirder it gets.